Here's Gilgeous-Alexander. McCollum staying with him. Spins, gets inside. Left-handed off the glass. Oh, what a sweet move.
Giddy, tough spot. Backdoor. What a pass. What a play. And J-Dub picks the pocket of Trae Young. He'll take it himself.
This is New York. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Uncontested Weekly Show, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and proudly sponsored by Dave's Hot Chicken and Spark OKC, where we had a great time last weekend. I'm your host on this Wednesday evening, JD Silva, joined by a trio of fellas. The first one is Jacob Niffen.
Do you think Jonte Porter read too many Shea Serrano bet on yourself tweets?
Took it literally. Next, I'm joined by Taylor Peterson.
Fellas, 3 more days. I cannot wait.
And last, but certainly not least, it's Nick Crane.
You can't say fellas, Taylor. Stop. Trademarked.
Trademarked.
Put a dollar in the fellas jar.
Hit up. I wonder how much money's in the fellas jar. I haven't been keeping track of that. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating. Follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We have a lot of fun. And our live stream. Shout out to you guys following along during tonight's show. Hey, it's the playoffs, and the Thunder are in it. They're the 1 seed. We haven't really talked much since that officially came to be after the end of the season. We all live potted from Spark. I know, Nick, you were in and out. This is great.
More out than in, but yes.
Yeah. It's great. We're here. We're officially here.
You getting anxious yet?
Yeah. More excited. I am more excited at this point, especially knowing the 2 potential matchups. I'm feeling better. I'll be at the game Sunday, which would be cool. Yeah, I'm very excited. What about you guys?
I heard Taylor sitting courtside.
Per usual.
There's like actually Thunder playoff pictures, like iconic ones from back in the day, where like Taylor's courtside, like fist bumping. I'm like, how is that real?
I made it on TNT. That was my claim to fame. You can see me in the background, but no, not sitting courtside. But I will be out at Thunder Up in the Park, so hopefully I'll see some of you guys there.
I believe JD and I will also be there, and we're bringing uncontested stickers. So if you will be hanging out
swag
before the game, hit us up. We will have stickers for you. It should be a good time. Yeah. Also, JD, just to plug before we dive too deep into this bad boy, Friday, it's Kings at Pelicans, 8:30 p.m. Central Time. That game should wrap up about 11. We will be live immediately following the conclusion of that game to do our full playoff preview breakdown of whoever the Thunder will be playing in the first round.
Yes, we'll have some late shows this weekend, and Friday. Obviously, the Friday one's gonna be late. Sunday, that game doesn't tip till 8:30, and then some of us will have to drive home, so we'll be up late. Stay up late with us, or if you're in another
Wednesday is also an 8:30 p.m. tip for game 2, so we'll be late for that one. But hey, the Saturday game, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. That's a 2:30 p.m. tip.
Weird one. Usually it's Sunday afternoon. Saturday afternoon is just weird.
So we'll have a Saturday afternoon. So we'll be live pretty early Saturday.
Yeah.
Good thing.
Yeah, it is.
A lot of days in between because it's the playoff schedule. Mm-hmm. We are not used to that. So I was looking at the schedule like, man.
The days between are so brutal because if you win, it's just like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to consume all of this content that's just gassing this team up. And if you lose, it's like, oh, hell no, this is awful. I don't want. When it comes time to reap versus sow, it's just miserable in those long stretches. Speaking of Kings Pelicans, just Taylor, why don't you choose which game we start with from last night and kind of where you want to go and what you want to talk about with either Lakers Pelicans or Kings Warriors?
Let's just start at the beginning with the first game of the night, which was Lakers Pelicans, because I think there are some huge takeaways for the Thunder there, considering that Zion is now out, going to be reevaluated here in another couple of weeks, was the wording, due to that late hamstring strain, which is just terrible after he had probably his best game of his entire career, as well as the Lakers winning that game. So the Thunder will not see them in the 8th seed.
So 2 weeks from today for reevaluation puts the series at either game 5 or game 6, I believe. I think it's closer to game 6. So if it were to be the Pelicans who win Friday night, you could expect Zion out for, I think, at least the first 5 games of the series, which is pretty substantial. Nick, the Lakers didn't intentionally tank to try to get the Thunder. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. Back to Zion real quick. I don't believe that Zion will be back at like the front end of the window, if that makes sense. Like if we know anything about Zion and it's like a 2-week window, like I'm not going to assume he's actually going to be ready in 2 weeks. Back to the Lakers though. I think that was a clickbait idea that caught steam.
No.
And
never.
And per usual, NBA Twitter ran with it. I'm surprised it wasn't like a Dunk Sentinel tweet.
Yeah,
it was. At first, I was like, "Is this a fake Lakers account?" And I was like, "No, it's actually a real publication that just has really bad ideas."
Yeah, it's ESPN.
Interesting.
That was a really fun game to watch, especially with Zion being Zion and like fulfilling what we all thought he could be.
Silva, considering like stakes. And performance, was that Zion's best game of his career?
Yeah, I think so. Because the defense was there too. Like he blocked LeBron late. He was just doing everything. So cannot imagine being a Pelicans fan and watching that and having that moment ripped away from you with a hamstring strain. It was also really weird. Like the report when it first came out was like it's a leg injury. And then he left apparently without a limp, without anything on his foot or his knee. And then today we find out it's a hamstring, and he's essentially out for the playoffs. Like I don't think anyone believes the Pelicans are going to make it to as long as it would take to have him back. So that is a brutal way to end. But I think you found some things out. Now, I was watching this game in spurts. Did Brandon Ingram get hurt, or did they bench him?
He just got benched in the fourth quarter, like down the stretch of the game. Coach Willie Green said he just liked the unit that was out there, which. If the unit that you like that's out there does not include your best offensive player, that's worrisome. Now, Ingram is coming off an injury, right? He was out for a couple of weeks, but that ain't great. They closed that game with no Zion, no BI, and no Jonas Valanciunas. Three starters off the floor for them. A little worrisome.
Yeah.
I think you're muted, buddy.
You're muted. Real chance. I know everybody's discounting the Pelicans. There's a real chance they beat the Kings, right?
For sure. All it takes is one guy.
All it takes. And I'm of the belief, maybe hot take, I would still rather have the Kings than the Zionless Pelicans.
Interesting.
I still like something about it's not even that like I think the Thunder would lose to the Pelicans. I just think that upwards of 7 games with the physicality they play with and the defensive upside of Herb Jones, like even if the Thunder advance in 5 or 6, I think Shea's going to be gassed. Him and Alvarado, like the Pelicans have some dudes that could like have the Thunder really limping into round 2.
I was going to mention Alvarado because he had an incredible game, tweaked each of his ankles, and still came back out and just was critical for the Pelicans there in that fourth quarter, really the entirety of the game. Yeah. But you bring up a really good point about Herb Jones on Shea. Obviously, Alvarado as well. Just having those kind of pesky defenders who can guard the J-Dubs and the Shays up for the Thunder. That's not necessarily a playoff opponent you want to see in the first round.
And to be clear, a lot of the conversation tonight is going to be about like, who would you rather play for the Thunder? And that's like a good conversation to have. But I think as we navigate that conversation, like, let's not discount this is the number 1 team in the Western Conference. Like, they should beat whoever is put in front of them in round 1, frankly. So while we can debate, and we will debate all night long on which is a better matchup, they should beat both.
Totally agree. I want to dive into which team we prefer and some of the strengths and weaknesses. You kind of already touched on that with the Pelicans. Let's jump over to the other game just real quick and talk about what we saw last night. The Kings, JD. I don't even know like what the correct descriptor is. Abusing, punishing,
Burying.
and burying. Quite
Nail in the
literally,
coffin?
like maybe ending the Golden State Warriors last night. Just blitzed the absolute piss out of them. Win the game by I can't remember.
118 to 94.
Okay, so by over 20. Before we dive into that, end of the Warriors dynasty, like, is the trio no longer the trio next year?
There were some.
Has it been a trio recently?
Agreed.
3 people have been there, Nick. I'm not saying they've done equal
I guess
amounts
recently.
of work.
Any combination of 3 players is a trio by definition. But have they been a trio recently?
It's kind of like that
No.
group project in high school where there's 3 people there, but only one does all the work and the other 2 just mess around.
Silva
Although-
was definitely the quiet guy that did no work.
Oh, bullshit.
Although in this case, it's a very weird scenario where that third guy did a lot in previous years, but his senior year, he's just kind of along for the senior ride.
0 of 10?
0 of 10.
Brutal.
Pretty crazy. And there were some very interesting quotes post game from each of Steve Kerr and Draymond Green saying that basically we have to re-sign Clay. Clay's such a huge part of this organization. We have to do it. We have to do it. And I just have a feeling.
Did you hear what
that,
Steph said?
No. What did Steph say?
They said something about, do you need to bring all 3 of you back or whatever? And he just said, I just want to win.
There you go. So do you side with Steph or your coach and Draymond? You probably side with Steph Curry, who still has a lot of basketball to be played. But it'll be fascinating to see. I think the Warriors up there with the Bucks, depending on what they do, are 2 of the most interesting offseason teams for me.
Yeah, I definitely, maybe I'm an asshole for this, but I definitely did take some joy in watching this all happen. They've had a highly prosperous last decade essentially, and the bill had to come due at some point, especially when you miss on the things that could have extended your run, like the 2nd pick and was it the 7th pick, 8th pick that they had with Kuminga? Like they blew it. Those were their big. Those were their moments
right after Josh.
To re-energize this in a big way.
2 whiffs.
I don't think they blew it. Kuminga's not a whiff. Let's
Why?
pump the
Well,
brakes.
Wiseman. Yeah,
Wiseman
yeah.
was definitely a whiff.
Wiseman-
Kuminga thinks to be really good.
Kuminga's like a single, a double,
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
whiff. I saw a screenshot of a Warriors beat writer's article from back after Wiseman's first year, saying he was on the same trajectory as Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I was like, man, the hopium was high back then.
What a time.
Let's go listen to 2021 Poku Pods. I think we
Hey.
may have been saying the same stuff.
And were we wrong? Hell no.
Did you watch his last couple of games with Charlotte?
When he inbounded the ball to the referee.
Yeah.
Whenever I watched that game last night, I see the Kings and I think, holy smokes, the Kings. Like Keon Ellis, Defensive Player of the Year. Keegan Murray, the best 3-point shooter in the league. Like, I think, and I'm sure I wasn't the only person just like seeing that game and thinking, holy shit, I don't want to see the Kings. I think sometimes we get sucked into like possession by possession and game by game. When you zoom out to 30,000 feet, like this Kings team kind of is what it is, right? Like the record, the what they're good at, like they are what their season says they are, not one game. Now they can get hot. I actually think the Herder Monk injuries might be, I don't want to say blessings in disguise because it's not a good thing that guys get hurt. Yeah. But if those guys are playing, they don't get as many minutes for Davion Mitchell and Keon Ellis, who have kind of been revelations for them defensively. I think the Kings are a fine team. I don't know how I feel about the Thunder matching up there. I said this on Locked On Thunder earlier today. I feel like the Thunder can dictate the matchups and the personnel in a Pelican series more than they can in a King series. Would you guys agree with that?
I don't know if I entirely agree, because you mentioned the injuries of Malik Monk and Kevin Herter. I almost said the Suns. The Kings had, 14 points off the bench last night. Keegan Murray is a hell of a player, an incredible player. He's not going to drop 32 points each game in anywhere from a 4 to 7 game series. Sabonis will do his thing. Keon had 15. He's been playing really well. He probably can keep getting that. Harrison Barnes had a great game, only had 17 points. I mean, it was De'Aaron Fox. It was Murray. It was Sabonis doing his typical double-double stuff. I think the Thunder can handle that pretty easily.
I think the thing with the Kings is, like, so obviously a larger, more physical center is something that can be trouble for the Thunder. And the Pelicans have Valanciunas, but Willie Green's been yanking him earlier and earlier into games and not playing him. Whereas the Kings can just spam the Sabonis thing often. And it may or may not work. Like the last game they played the Kings didn't work. He had one of the worst games of his season against OKC. So I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent. I guess we can kind of go into talking about these matchups and like which we prefer. And we're kind of doing that already, but I am kind of indifferent with either one. I think the Kings one would probably be more entertaining. Pelicans one would just make me a little sad knowing that they don't have Zion and they have like a Brandon Ingram that's not at 100%, but I don't know.
Yeah. My takeaway, I think Jacob hit the nail on the head. Not that he didn't hit the nail on the head in his recent comment about dictating, but the comment before is what hit the nail on the head to me. Is like, we live in these little micro moments of like this one game. Let's look at the Kings as what they were for 82 games, not what they were last night in a game against the 17th versus the 18th best team in the NBA. Like that's not how you judge a team. You know, if that was game 71, you're not saying, "Oh, the Kings took care of the Warriors, man, I'm scared." You're not saying that. Like don't live in that moment. Look at the 82 game sample. What that tells you is without Monk and without Herter, they're not great. Like they're 2-8 down the stretch. Like not good.
And the Thunder recently beat them. Recently saw and played against and experienced what I'm going to call like the new look Kings without those two are, and won that game despite Fox and Ellis having like supernova first half. Like Keon Ellis averages like 6 a game, and the brother had 18 at halftime, like tripled his output
15 threes.
Yeah. Like that is not sustainable over that series. Here's what it kind of comes down to me, guys. Regardless of which two of these teams the Thunder play, the Thunder will have the best player in the series. I don't think that's debatable.
Is there a series they wouldn't?
Like throughout the entire Western Conference?
Yeah.
Mavericks
I think a lot of people would
debatable.
argue round 2 against the Mavericks, and if Western Conference Finals is,
I'd call
Denver,
that a push.
Yeah. I don't have. I'm not pushing back either way. It was just a question because I mean, Mark said it himself. I wouldn't want to have anybody else. I mean, because Shea is not winning MVP doesn't mean he's not the guy you'd want. Like, seriously, is he the best player on the floor regardless?
He at least has a chance to be if he's not like on paper throughout the whole season,
or has a case to be. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Taylor, from earlier, what I was trying to say about the matchups is I feel like the Kings have the ability to slide Sabonis over to Giddey, put a guy like Keegan Murray on Chet. The Thunder can go small, and the Warriors will stay with their lineup. I feel like the Thunder's lineups can force the Pelicans to change what they do. Putting out a Larry Nance or even like a Trey Murphy III at center instead of Jonas Valanciunas to match up with Chet. Like, I feel like the Thunder can make New Orleans have to make changes, be the ones to adjust. I don't know how much you can force Sacramento to adjust. I think Sacramento may be just a tad more versatile. That's kind of where I was going with that comment. But regardless, Nick mentioned it earlier, the Thunder should win a series against either of these teams.
That's exactly the point that I was going to make there. I forget the point that you made earlier, Nick, but just the thought that I keep coming back to is what happened last night in the Western Conference play-in is, I don't want to say best case scenario, but it was sure close to it. Like I mentioned, the Lakers win, so you aren't seeing them in the first round. And then you either get the hobbled Pelicans that we talked about, or a Kings team who is shorthanded, but the Thunder have proven that they can beat. That's the point that you made. You talked, Nick, about the 82-game sample size. And we've seen what this Thunder can do against the Kings. Even if they struggled earlier in the season, I think they still can absolutely beat them in a 7-game series. Neither of these teams really scare me. And it gets me a little more excited, I think, for this first round of the playoffs.
Jacob and I, at the live show, we had our hot take segment, and we both said Thunder in 5, no matter the opponent. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Either way.
So it's a hot take for a reason, right? That's why the section is called the hot take of the week.
Pretty good.
I don't hate it, though. I don't hate it at all.
No matter what.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
That Sunday night game is going to be bonkers. Dude.
I agree.
Like,
I mentioned it. I mentioned it at Spark. I am mentioning it again here on this show. We might even have to clip this portion, drop it on social media. I am determined to have this go viral. That place is going to be packed. People are going to be rowdy. It's a late Sunday night. Everyone's going to have the t-shirts on. If you are one of the 18,000 in the building, you need to bark like a madman for nearly the entirety of the game. Like, I want TNT to flip over to Oklahoma City and the barking to be so damn loud that somebody in Tennessee watching this game has the volume on and their actual dogs at home start barking because they're hearing barking on the television. Like
what it was for J-Dub pregame in game 82, but like
turn that shit to
on
11.
Steroids.
Okay.
Yes.
On Loud City playoff level.
Like,
yes,
that'd be
I'm
sick.
all about it.
That'd be sick.
All about it.
When does that become frightening? Just like for everyone involved.
I don't think I think it just gets cooler the
You
more.
mean like,
I was gonna
what-
say,
what-
for the
not-
opposing
not
team,
frightening. When does it get
immediately.
weird? You mean
When does it get weird? You know,
like
18,000 people barking.
these old boys in Oklahoma just keep barking like that?
You might have a situation where there's like old, I don't know, Rodney from Tennessee's watching, and his son, he's like, "You can't watch this anymore, Billy." It's some weird shit.
kill the ratings because we're all barking.
Yeah,
what the dog doing? Am I right?
the dog doing.
Like that. That would be one of the, not just for the Thunder, but like one of the cooler. It's gonna get hated on because it's Oklahoma City, and like Twitter's gonna have a heyday about it. But like that'd be one of the cooler things in recent playoff history. Like every year there's something. It's like counting the seconds for Giannis's free throws, or like
The beam.
my guy Trey Young, like in the Garden in that New York Knicks series a few years ago. It's like
Yeah, the
iconic
Blues, that
stuff.
was
Like
cool.
like the barking could be the thing this year.
Absolutely.
We need to make it a thing. Like, we need to promote the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And hey, I've been working downtown I work downtown, been walking around this week. They're doing some really cool stuff, getting Scissor Toe Park all ready. I think that is going to be a big thing. When TNT pans out over the city, you're going to see Scissor Toe Park. You're going to see the Omni Hotel, Devon Tower. You're going to see
Jacob
Paycom,
just murdering a pack of cigarettes.
Cigs. That's right. the ones he got from the Thunder game Sunday night, and it's going
smoking.
to be really, really cool. So I encourage everybody to head out to Scissortail if you can.
Nick, are you going to join me in a celebratory cigarette?
When? Before or after?
If they win the finals.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have never smoked a cigarette.
Nick's like, that's like a Saturday night.
I'll do more than cigarettes.
Oh yeah, I'll
Ayo. I love it.
Well, on that note, we should probably take a break.
Smoke break. We'll be back.
Right back. All righty. And as we always do, after the break, it's time for the Spark segment of the week. The Spark of the week, you might say. Spark joy at Scissortail Park's family-friendly joint, Spark. Dive into their menu of burgers, bites, and cold delights. Don't skip the must-try BLC burger, pink fries, frozen Peach Club special, that of which I had multiple on, what day was it? Friday?
Can't even remember.
Sunday, bro.
So many. You can't even remember.
All right.
Do you remember the live pod?
It's not because I had so many. And the rotating custard flavor of the bunch, with which right now it's like lemon,
poppy seed
or something. Blueberry. I got to go back. to that. Anyway, located directly west of the Paycom Center, Spark is the best spot to hit before or after a Thunder game. We all know 2 scoops or even 3 scoops of custard is better than 1. So be on the lookout for Spark number 2 and 3 coming to Chisholm Creek and Nichols Hills later this spring and summer.
Hey, I just have to let it be known that after the live pod, Justin and I stayed around and ate dinner. That pimento cheeseburger.
Ooh.
Gas.
Yes.
Really?
Oh my God. It was so good.
Perhaps the biggest letdown of the whole watch party, maybe the only letdown of the whole watch party, is I didn't get pink fries because I was only there.
You were in a rush. I know.
Rush.
You've been looking forward to them. Jacob and I drug you to Dave's a couple weeks ago instead of Spark.
Well, I was going to get them before the show, but it's a good thing. The line was long as hell. Everyone wanted the food.
Yep.
Business was booming, so I didn't get my pink fries.
Shout out to everyone who came out to Spark, watch the live pod.
Awesome.
An incredible experience for us. We really appreciate you guys. Glad that everybody made it out. Also, Curtis in the chat says we should call this segment the Bark of the Week.
Oh, well done.
I will say, if I lived in OKC, so I slacked y'all Saturday. I think Saturday I went through for a run through the park and saw Spark for the first time. Like, if I lived in Oklahoma City, I would be vibing at that outdoor patio every weekend. Like,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you
Especially
kidding?
during the spring and fall. Yeah.
Dude, the vibes were immaculate.
Yes.
I would
Just like the team.
$5 draft beers. I would have my feet kicked up in some flip flops on spring break mode.
I love it.
It's great. It's a great place to hang out.
JD, what's your Spark of the Week?
Well, I think I'm going to give it to. Let me think of how I want to phrase this. All right, because I've gone through.
These are my favorite.
All of ours could have been like, well, it's the Thunder for making the playoffs as the 1 seed or something like that. I want to give like a sarcastic Spark of the Week, and I'm going to give it to the Los Angeles Lakers.
I love that.
Congratulations on winning that game yesterday. Good luck with the Nuggets. That's my Spark of the Week. Does that count?
I love that. That's a fantastic Spark of the Week.
Nuggets in 5.
You had you second guessed yourself there.
5 is 2 more than I would have given him.
I've got a Spark of the Week
in the
since you
first
guys are
3
being...
that they'll just call it a series after 3. No, my Spark of the Week. There's a lot of different things I could go with. I'm thinking Spark of the Week for this week is what is sparking the team leading into game 1.
That's how I viewed it as well.
And
it's worth.
The team's never going to admit it. Ever. My Spark of the Week goes to the national media covering the NBA playoffs. The weakest 1 seed in NBA history. They don't want the Lakers. They couldn't beat the Lakers. They're unproven. J-Dub was asked today about the narrative. He says, we don't listen to anything outside of this building. I appreciate the answer. I appreciate not giving the fire fuel. That brother's on the internet all the time. He's always posting stuff on Instagram. They've heard it all. They've seen it all. They said that they got together at Chet's house to watch
last night. Correct.
The play-in games last night.
And we're getting together again tonight to watch the play-ins as well. It's pretty cool.
You know they've heard these things. You know they've seen these things. They are an uncommon team. They have an uncommon maturity about them. Shout out to the national media. You provided the spark of the week to give this team just a little more motivation. You know who I love to listen to whenever it comes to NBA analysis?
Shannon Sharp.
The guy that tried to fight all of the Memphis Grizzlies. That's who I like. Shannon Sharp, baby.
NFL tight end, giving us some great NBA takes.
What did Ryland say to me today? You don't go to your vet to ask who to vote for in November. You don't go to an NFL tight end to hear about in-depth NBA coverage.
Of course,
that's exactly right.
It was a very Ryland thing to say.
Yes, he did the things that come out of his mouth, man.
I think the next time I go to my vet, I'm going to ask him his political leanings.
I'm sure that'll go well.
How do you feel about issues?
Can we live pod
East?
that? Can you like make a YouTube short of that interaction, please?
As my dog is getting a shot.
Vaccinated, yeah. How do you feel about vaccinations? How do you feel about
the war in Ukraine?
Wild.
Mine is actually very similar, Jacob. Mine is the Thunder. My spark of the week is the Thunder's youth. There's been so much talk about the biggest weakness of this team is rebounding, obviously, and also this Thunder team's inexperienced. But I think this Thunder youth is what's going to give them their spark heading into the playoffs. We saw all the comments today out of post-game, or not post-game, practice availability. There's a lot of comments here in the chat asking our thoughts on that. Shay mentioned it. He was like, look, we're also going to be young the next 4 to 5 years also. It doesn't matter.
That quote.
That was awesome.
That quote.
That was incredible. And I kind of think this youth is a spark. These are, no pun intended, is going to be a strength heading into the playoffs because these guys are coming in. Ignorance is bliss. Do you want to use that term? Like they aren't coming in worried about playoffs is a different game than the regular season. They're coming in. They're going to play the same brand of basketball that they have played the entirety of the season. They're confident in themselves. Like Shay said, they're focused on what's going on within those four walls, not what's outside of it. I think that youth and that inexperience is actually going to be a big strength for his team heading into the playoffs. So my spark of the week is the Thunder youth.
It's a good one. I think if you listen to things outside of those four walls, you would think that any team with a above average center would beat the Thunder. And
the thing that can I rant just for a second? Sorry, I know Nick needs to get a spark.
Let's hear it.
Let it rip.
The Thunder have played 82 games. It's not like they haven't played a team with size all season. Like, what are we doing? And the whole narrative about rebounds, like, it's not the first to 30 rebounds wins a game, folks. The Kings could out-rebound them every game of this upcoming series, or the Pelicans could out-rebound them. You don't measure who wins a game by rebounds. You measure it by points. The narrative just drives me freaking crazy.
It's very lazy to me.
I had that debate actually with some coworkers today who were saying the same thing. One of them who is very he's very has a good basketball knowledge and is very informed. And I said the same thing. He was worried about like the Valanciunases and the why am I going blank on the Sun Center?
Domantas Sabonis. Oh no, the Suns. Sorry,
the Suns. Nurkic. And he was talking about like the career rebound game that he had. And I was like, look, the Thunder play them off the floor. Kenrich Williams is going to go in. And I just think that's a huge strength for this team. And like you mentioned, Jacob,
as fired up as I'm already getting about these narratives and these games, can we make a pact, the four of us? No. Justin's not here, but if the four of us agree, he gets outvoted anyways. Can we make a pact right here and now?
No.
You haven't even heard the proposal yet, Nick.
I just know where you're going, probably.
This is how cold.
Where do you think I'm going?
Something insane.
Tattoos or...
No. The pact is that we made a rule that everyone on the podcast got a 1 F-bomb pass for the season. I think it should reset every playoff series.
Oh,
Sure.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Sure.
You gotta
Sylvia,
warn
you're
the
gonna have to get
audience.
beat button ready, my guy.
Okay, I don't have a beat button, but I can go.
You're
in.
gonna have to get one.
Got to get one. So Jacob, I don't want to defend the national media because most of them suck. But
We are anti-media, anti-fake news here at the Uncontested Podcast, boys.
that I almost don't fault them. Like the Thunder was not on national television very much this year. And if you think about the people on Twitter that talk ball that you respect and that are like league pass junkies, sure names are popping in your head, Dan, Nikias, like all the people that like Wob, all those people that are league pass junkies.
I don't
rave
know
about
if
the
they're
Thunder.
Wob in there this year.
He's
but
awesome. He's
your
awesome.
point.
He's awesome. Rave about the Thunder most of the time, right? Like they watch the games, they say awesome things about them. The people that crap on the Thunder are the people that ain't watching League Pass. They're like catching the end of the second half on TNT from the wine cellar. Like the people that watch the games say good things about the people that don't. So next year, when this team's on national TV all the time, I think the narrative actually changes. So not to defend the national media, they just don't watch.
That's fair.
They're just ignorant.
The annoying part is that those people oftentimes have the loudest voices.
For sure.
Don't watch.
For sure. 100%. You're not wrong there.
That's what gets the social media engagement. That's what this is all about. Also, I don't have these stats pulled up in front of me, believe it or not, but a lot of those national games that the Thunder played were on the second night of back-to-backs, especially against the Lakers. And so that is going to inform a lot of the Shannon Sharp, big Laker fans.
Shannon Sharp watched them when they played the
Thanks.
Lakers. That was about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes every time I drive to work on Monday mornings, I don't know why I do it to myself. I turn on the Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo podcast, and every Monday morning, why did the Thunder trade for a center? What? And that's my Bills. That's my best Bills.
That was good.
Like, have we got Nick Spark yet?
Why? We've not. Would you like my spark?
Yes, please.
It's gonna be like I'm gonna go a little corporate on you. The best companies, the culture and the attention to detail and the work ethic and the success starts at the top. Like there's a really good leader and their morals trickle down. I think you know where I'm going with this. Sam Presti is my spark of the week. The guy does not suit up. The guy does not facilitate practice. The guy is not involved in like the on-court stuff, like at least publicly, or we see it. But a few times over the past couple of weeks, as the Thunder navigated the end of the regular season, the stress that comes with it, the tiebreakers, the narratives, the increase in pressure, all the above, there's been several times where players and Mark, when they're asked questions, allude to, Sam talked to us about this the other day, and it's like he puts these things into context. Like Mark, when I was in Oklahoma City last weekend at practice, was talking about how Sam was talking to him and his staff about not only do you have to win the games, but you have to win the gaps between game 1 and game 2. If you win game 1, everyone's saying, oh, you're going to win it all. If you lose game 1, everyone's saying you suck and you're overrated. And you have to adjust and win the gaps in between. And like someone like Sam Presti, while this team is super, super raw and unproven and has no experience, Sam's battle tested. And so I think as we lead up to the playoffs, if our spark of the week is not actually what happens game 1, 2, 3, and what actually happens leading up to it, I think nobody's more important over the next 4 days leading up to Sunday than Sam Presti. So he's my spark of the week.
I love it. Let's hit some of the comments for Spark of the Week. We got some great ones. First, we have Smoot says, Spark of the Week is Chet. If we draw the Kings, the matchup versus Sabonis will be the narrative. Great measuring stick moment for Chet to show what he can do against one of the premier centers. We also know how Chet looks like coming off of rest, so that's promising. Smoot's got another one. He's sparking it up all kinds of ways. Spark of the Week, free throws. As in, we don't have to watch the Lakers shoot 1,000 free throws against us. Gentlemen, I was actually pulling up the statistics here. Shout out, Taylor. Thunder 4th in the NBA in free throw
Statistics, Holmes.
percentage. 82.5% for the Thunder for the season. Free throws matter big time in the playoffs. I think that's a huge, huge aspect. Thunder Chick, Spark of the Week, the OKC Blue, or should I say the G League champion OKC Blue.
Shout out to Olivier
MVP.
Star. He ruptured his Achilles.
That's
tough.
rough.
But
He
MVP
was awesome.
G League or MVP Finals of the G League, Usman Jang. He was
awesome
down the stretch for the
He
Blue.
was awesome. And then lastly, Thundor Viking Chet says his Spark of the Week, depth of the Thunder bench outlasting teams. I think that's a pretty big part of this equation as well. I don't know what playoff rotations will look like. Are Shea and Chet and Dub playing 40 minutes a game? Is Usman about to get 15 minutes in game one? Like, no clue. Mark could do anything. But I think the versatility of the Thunder's bench, you're not throwing out a bench player that is like a specific role. Hey, this guy is the guy that comes in and plays defense. And this guy is the guy that can't do much except rebound. All their bench pieces are very versatile. Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams. They have a Gordon Hayward. They have this versatility off the bench. If you need them to score, they can score a bit. If you need them to defend, they can defend really well. You need them to play make and play off the dribble and cut back door. They can do all these different things. I think that versatility allows for a plethora of different lineups. And I think that's going to be a massive advantage for the Thunder moving into the playoffs.
All right. That concludes our Spark of the Week segment. We're going to hit one more break and then do some freestyling. Be right back. Okay, we're back for the final segment of the night. I'm gonna do some freestyling here, and you guys can tell me which route you want to take. We can do some big picture reflecting on the end of the season. Kind of, we didn't get to talk much during the live show about just like how we are feeling, like as a podcast covering this team, what this season kind of meant, what we feel about this team moving forward into the postseason or into the future. Or we can talk some more playoff stuff. Like we know the Lakers and the Nuggets are going to play. We know the Heat just lost to the Sixers. Now the Sixers are going to play the Knicks. We can talk about that as well. I think the Bulls are up on the Hawks right now. So which route do you guys want to take?
Silence.
Not all at once. Nick,
Stunned.
you're the leader of the boat. Tell us which way we're going.
Oh.
We want to talk more matchups, or we want to talk big picture what this season was?
I like big picture.
Yeah.
I know I'm the vacuum guy, but let's talk big picture.
In a vacuum.
Big picture, first thought. We have been doing this podcast since PG Russ Mello, leading into that Utah series. By far my favorite season covering basketball with you guys.
Tell us why. Like what memories stick out? Like what about the team is nostalgic or fun or interesting to you?
Hey, they're freaking good.
Yeah.
Which makes covering them a lot more fun. The expectations are low.
This is
the vibes.
The best team since we started the podcast.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The vibes are just like through the roof, right? It's so much fun talking about this team, seeing how much they enjoy each other. I think, and I've had people tell me this, like our chemistry has grown as a podcast. And I just love getting on here and talking hoops with you guys. We have a lot more context with this team by going to Summer League and having Nick covering like games as a media member and us being at a lot of these games. A lot of context from previous seasons. It's like we kind of went through some bad seasons, and that makes a really, really successful season that much more enjoyable. I mean, I could rip off 15 different moments from the season that, you know, are just like baked into my memory, probably forever, of just how much fun this season was. but it has been an absolute blast. I'd argue it's my favorite Thunder season ever. And we still haven't even hit the postseason run yet. I don't know. It's just, for me, it's been a blast.
You hit on something there that I've been thinking a lot about. Nick, you asked, this is obviously since we started the podcast back in 2018, quite definitely the best Thunder team we've gotten to cover.
At least
during a season.
Statistically and win percentage and offense, defense, all the above. Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, there weren't those expectations for this team, right? There were the expectations when we started the podcast for the PG Melo Russ years and then the PG Melo years. And then we entered the tank plus COVID, all the above. It is really crazy to kind of think back on that and how much we've gotten to cover and just the craziness that this team has been through. And we've gotten to cover all of it, which is really exciting. But I think the word that keeps coming to my mind when I'm talking to people, the fans at the live podcast, and when we're talking amongst one another, and when I'm talking to coworkers, when I'm talking to my family, it's nostalgia. I keep coming back to that 2012 year, the really 2010 through the 2012 season. For example, my little brother Hayden sent a tweet from the Thunder in our group text that we have, my family group text, and it was Craig Sager up there in front of almost said Loud City. Thunder Alley, right, with everybody in the background. And then my dad just starts going through starts sending all these pictures from that finals run and the playoff or the Western Conference run, the win that they got against the Spurs. And like there's pictures of me and Hayden with our hardened foam finger beards on and just things of that nature. It's crazy to think how far this franchise has come and how lucky we are as fans. And there's a lot of nostalgia here because there's so much comparisons to that early era of the Thunder. And yet it's so different. And it's so, I don't even know what the term I'm looking for here. It's its own thing. And that's really exciting for me. We're building new memories and we get to do it as a podcast. And I can't wait for this run in the playoffs and I can't wait for the seasons ahead. It's kind of what I'm getting at.
I think nostalgic is a really good way to describe it. That's kind of how I've felt also. It took me back to early high school, watching those Thunder teams and just being filled with like wonder. And like, that's what created the basketball fan that I am now are those early moments and those early teams. And I think this team to a whole new generation, both young and old, is creating new fans. Like this is the roster that creates new lifelong Thunder fans. Like my girlfriend is a fan now. Like she never was before. People at work, people I see at random restaurants or bars or wherever are being more vocal and like more engaged with the Thunder than I've seen in many, many years. Like I going to a playoff game on Sunday and I haven't been to one since 2016. Like it's felt like a throwback, but it's also felt like, I don't know, Taylor, you were trying to describe how this team feels in comparison to the old one. This one almost feels, is hopeful the right word? Like more hopeful or more, I feel more.
Feels like there's a very bright future ahead.
Yeah, I feel like more confident in this as a sustainable like image of a Thunder team than before. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, crazy that 2016. I mean, you were 6. It's the last time that. I'm just kidding. To answer your question and kind of like my big picture too is like, even the best, even pre-podcast, pre-Russ Melo, the best Thunder teams still had flaws and questions, whether that be, is this guy the right coach? Is this guy going to stick around? Is this guy the right personality in the locker room? Does the team have enough draft picks to maintain the success?
Do the superstars fit together?
The superstars fit. Does this team have the potential to maybe bring in a big name free agent? Like there's always questions.
Is Dion Waiters the greatest basketball player of all time?
That was also a question. I think we got the answer. This team, they could go get swept in round 1 and we're having a whole different conversation. But I still think big picture, if that's what we're doing, you got the right coach. You got the right face of the franchise. You already have the right pieces. You have all the draft picks. you might finally be a free agent destination. Like, I'm not saying you're going to go get like a superstar in free agency, but I think Oklahoma City could actually get a decent role player, like your 8th man in free agency. I truly believe it. I know it's never happened, like literally never. But
Don't
I think
you ever slander Big Meech like that again.
I do think it is.
Technically, it wasn't a free agent, but
yeah, I know. I think
Carmelo had to waive his no trade clause.
It could be a thing. Like, people want to play for these young, fun teams, and I think it's a possibility. I just don't. I don't see a lot of gaps. Like, injury is the only thing that hinders this team from, like, they're already this good, from like going to like even better.
For sure. I was thinking about this earlier, guys. I kind of want to, maybe this can be kind of where we end, thinking about the nostalgia and the big picture and things coming full circle. Number 1 seed heading into their first playoff run. Youngest number 1 seed by 2 years in NBA history based off minutes played. Your MVP candidate leading the way should finish second. My biased opinion, maybe first. Should not finish third. I feel pretty strongly about that. I think back to the COVID season, to the bubble season. What Shea picked up from Chris Paul.
Who will be back on the team again next year?
I've thought about that.
How much on-court, off-court leadership, all that stuff, how much of a role do you think that is playing now for Shea and for leading this team?
Significant, especially this season and last. Being such a young team and seeing the way that he's been able to lead these guys on and off the floor, combined with what Nick mentioned earlier in the podcast about how he's just been this sponge for the Thunder organization and has just completely bought into what Sam Presti and Mark Daignault have been preaching. That's also something I've seen a lot of comments in our chat tonight. Per usual, we have just a ridiculous amount. You guys are the best. But what Sam and Mark are preaching, that Shea just absorbs and exemplifies by example, and also by the way he talks. Like, I think Chris has a huge footprint on that, as does the Thunder organization as a whole, and it speaks a lot to Shea's character.
I think I hope Thunder fans realize how like lucky they are as fans. Also, like, I just wanted to point that out, because how many organizations have never in their franchise's history had as much promise as the Thunder have had, twice in the last 15 years since their inception, and it hasn't been that long since they were relevant, and now they're more relevant than ever almost. And I don't know, it's not supposed to happen like this. Like, we're not supposed to be. There was our good friend Biased Houston tweeted yesterday, like, every fan base like hates their coach and GM, and then went on from there. And I was like, is that because like lived in agony mostly as a Rockets fan for on and off for the last decade? Thunder fans, I don't think, feel that way at all, and rarely have.
For sure. I keep thinking of, Taylor had a comment earlier about the nostalgia with like the Fear the Beard and the Hardened beard and all of that. And my mind immediately went to, you know what that is this year?
The barking.
It's the barking. Like, the team has this vibe and this energy and this culture to them. This just this resonating throughout the city. Like, I mean, hell, J-Dub wore our Thunder Dog shirt, and now they're like, we can't keep them on the shelves. So like selling like hotcakes at McDonald's. It's been a pleasure covering this team. They are an incredibly fun team. I can tell you right now, and I think Nick can probably even get even deeper into this, having a chance to talk to some of these guys post-game this past week. I think they see what this city and this fan base was for those teams of old, and they are chomping at the bit to get a piece of that, to experience that, to rekindle that. And I have full faith that Thunder fans are going to absolutely bring it.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing we didn't really touch on a lot about on tonight's podcast is the practice availability. Where like Lindy Waters, we're talking about like growing up here in Oklahoma and just remembering those Loud City days. Lindy said that he was there for that Russ and one shot against the Lakers, right? The infamous clips that are going viral currently, hyping up this new era of Thunder playoffs. And then something else is Mark mentioned how today's practice kind of had a first day of school vibes. These guys are fired up. I wish I would have mentioned that during my Spark of the Week when I mentioned the Thunder's youth, because they're ready for it, like you mentioned, and I know that the city is going to show up and be there for them. And I think this is, I don't know, I'm really, really excited to see the city show out and for Loud City to really kind of put their mark on the nation again.
We're going to be at game 1. J-Dub is going to hit some sort of big shot or dunk and let out a primal scream. And we're going to get the TNT camera clipping over to a shirtless JD beating his chest like King Kong.
And Jacob rolling cigs in the arena.
Yeah.
Yes. I can't wait.
That will be a religious experience. Is that all we got? Anything else?
Fun stuff. I can't wait. Can't wait to see you guys and just like get to experience this era of the Thunder with you all. We're all going to meet up. Spark. I always say Spark at the park, so that's what they call Spark. Thunder up in the park at Scissortail. It'll be a ton of fun. Then we're going to head into that arena on Sunday.
What all do they have?
Have a hell of a podcast on Sunday.
They're gonna have all kinds of stuff. They're gonna have Rumble's gonna be out there, the dancers, games,
beer garden.
I'll
be there for that.
Silva said fans should look back, enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride. This might be the last podcast for a while that like we're just like free flowing, chilling.
I know.
Friday will be a deep dive into their opponent, and then Sunday, our first post-game podcast, guys, of the postseason. We are either going to come in here, like Sam Presti said, either after game 1, you're winning a championship or you're getting swept. We will try to keep our heads level. But if they come out and beat ass
Taylor
on Sunday, we are going to be going crazy.
Thunder and 1.
Oh, I'll have some black eyeliner ready at my desk in case things.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Silva's going to come on to the first loss of the postseason, playing some My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. Yep.
You're
all right. We're out of here. Join us again on Friday, please. It'll be late, but be here anyway. We'll be here, and we'll know who we're playing for the playoffs. It'll be a full playoff preview. Is everyone going to be here for that? I don't know.
Whole team, baby. We can't miss it.
Squad pod.
I'm going to be jacked up on coffee. I was looking at
Mountain Dew. Bucks.
Celsius. We got a Celsius sponsorship.
Oh, my heart explodes.
200
How
mgs.
much I'm talking about cigarettes? We need a Marlboro sponsorship. Camels.
No, American Spirits, bro.
Oh my God.
Is that an actual cigarette?
Yeah.
I have an American Spirit.
Shout out Murphy's and Stillwater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Never had one.
Brands. All right. We're out of here. See you guys on Friday. Adios and Thunder up in the playoffs.